Big box. There aren't games in there this time. Something else. Cut away, and when I come back, I'll show you what's inside. And there they are, peripherals. The one on the left is the Sega Saturn IR wireless gamepad, and the one on the right, the Multicontroller, better known in the West as the Sega Saturn 3D analog controller. As for the gamepads themselves, well, they're right here. I think we'll be starting out with the one on the right here first, as it's the one people are most familiar with. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about this. Everything that needs to be said about it has already been said a million times, but I will cover the basics. This was released in 1996. It was purpose-built for Nights into Dreams. Works like a dream, with that game. The controller has, like a standard Saturn controller, 6 face buttons, start button, D-pad, but instead of shoulder buttons, you have analog triggers on the back, and of course, why this controller was built in the first place, the analog stick. It's a rather unique design. Again, works fantastic with Knights. Works all right with most other Sega Saturn games that utilize it, but it's a little bit loose, so you can kind of understand why the design never really caught on. There's also this switch right here, which you can see the circle and the plus sign, and when you switch between the two, this put the controller in one of two modes, analog or digital. It needed this switch because older games weren't compatible with this thing, and they needed to be set into digital in order to work. That said, you could take an older racing game, switch it over to analog, and it would interpret this controller as being the steering wheel, which was released early on in the system. I think it was probably released at launch, because Gale Racer was released a week after launch, and that thing used the steering wheel. Doesn't use the steering wheel very well, though. This thing works better than the steering wheel with Gale Racer. Go fig. Now, moving on to the main event, this baby right here. Now, like I mentioned before, this is an infrared wireless controller. It works exactly the same way as your television remote control. Press a button, it sends a signal out the front here, top, whatever you want to say, this thing, toward your receiver station, which is right here. And it's picked up through this translucent piece of plastic and fed into your Saturn through the, I guess they're not ports, plugs, I guess you would call them. They slot right in, the receiver station slots right into your Saturn. And of course, you'd always have to maintain a direct line of sight with the receiver station. You can't hold the controller up or anything toward the ceiling. It's got to be right toward it, or else it won't work. Doesn't work like Bluetooth. I mean, you should know that. If you know how to work a television remote control, it works exactly the same way as this. Now, if this thing will focus, maybe not, but you'll notice some other markings on the controller. In addition to the usual ones, like above Y here you have a stop button. Above Z you have play and pause. Shoulder buttons, fast forward, rewind. Those are standard for use with the CD player. Oh, it's coming back into focus now. Now you can see the other marks that were added in addition to those. Here's one A. You can switch between TV and video. This start button will allow you to turn your TV on and off. Here's a function button, completely new button added to this thing. Also works as your volume up. Left works as your volume down, channel up, channel down. So they definitely intended for this thing to work as a remote control. And there's also one other thing here, a switch, which you could, I believe it says 1 player, 2 player, so I guess this would designate whether this controller was acting as controller 1 or controller 2. Oh yeah, and it also has a TV button, so that answers that. This can, I guess, be programmed to work with your television. Um, as you can probably see from this view, it's a little bit thicker than your standard Sega Saturn Gamepad, and that's because it has two compartments on the back where AA batteries go. They're on either side of the controller, so the weight is distributed equally throughout. Speaking of weight, this isn't that heavy, but yes, it is heavier than your typical Saturn controller. I believe that's all there really is to say about this thing. It's a really neat piece of equipment for the Saturn. Not exactly rare, but definitely uncommon. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And until next time, see ya.